Hi, folks. We're Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining us. Audio, radio, no pictures, live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you're driving along in your car or your truck or on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the latest internationally coordinated globalist, race, gender, hustling type propaganda campaign. And the latest invention is, and this is, I've only noticed it in the UK and Australia, but I'm sure it goes beyond that, which is male supremacy in high schools and even in junior school. So it's boy supremacy. Ooh, Hitler. Oh, Hitler's just going out the back door there. Quick, somebody stop him. What is this male supremacy that they're talking about? Now, studies have shown, and so they're trying to do the usual propaganda treatment that the experts have said. And then it's nonsense as soon as you hear that. But there's, and it starts off, one piece here, Jane is a highly respected teacher, not her real name. Jane is a highly respected teacher in a leading high school in Australia, and she recently has been terrified and has been having panic attacks and has been crying, and because there was a boy at the school that is disrespecting her and looking at her. The boy was looking at her, and she had a panic attack, and the violence, the oppression, the Nazi, the fascism, it's just all there, neatly tied up in one perfect propaganda bundle. What happened to her, or what the supposed male students did, is unclear, and there are vague references to male students making sexual connotation comments about female students. Now that's been going on for thousands of years, so I'm not sure that this is some major discovery and it needed a study to tell us about it. Other comments that some of the senior boys have made, sexual related connotation type comments about teachers, and there's a case where the sports teacher who's wearing a sports uniform, which is the short dress and the whole thing, some male student allegedly said to her, "Sexy legs." Oh no, fuck, Hitler, there goes Hitler again. Oh, holy crap, somebody stop him. So what are we talking about here? These things that are supposed to suggest or imply in some abstract sense, they're supposed to imply, according to this report, it's severe misogyny. It's patriarchy. It's oppression of women, lack of respect to women. And once you've got that, of course, that leads straight away to pack rape. And what? Is that the leap you're making? So if somebody takes an aspirin for a headache, that means they've done 100 lines of coke. Well, it does. But look, are you saying aspirin is not inserting something into? So you could use this argument for anything. So let's have a look at let's go back to the report now, or the study. The study's done by a radical feminist activist, lesbian gender studies academic. It's not done by an impartial, independent person who's looking for evidence and facts. They're starting from the position that there is, terrible waves of misogyny going through the education system, and so they begin at that point, and then they grab hold of anything they can that appears, no matter how abstract and remote and indirect, that appears to support the beginning point of the thesis. So this is not an evidence-based thing. Far from it. It's pure feminist, radical feminist advocacy. So, but let's let's have a look at this idea now. The feminization of the education system, which was just starting when I was, in the final year of high school, I guess, is where I noticed it in particular. and or maybe a little bit earlier I'd noticed it, but particularly in the final year of high school. So we're talking years ago now, 40 years ago. So we can say that the feminization of the education system has been pretty solid for at least 25 to 30 years, at least. So every child in high school or junior school, any sort of school, college as well, has only ever known the feminized education system, has only ever known gender quotas, has only ever known affirmative action. So if you can't create a situation of, as they say, respect for women, I'm not sure, because it's vague. They don't define what they mean by respect for women. Does it mean that males open doors for women and the car door, or they let women go first through the door, or is it? I mean, what does it mean exactly? Respect for women. There's mention about the objectification of women, meaning that women are seen, but by some boys as, for their physical, are they attractive or not attractive, those sorts of things. But I don't know if that will ever change, and why should it? I mean, is it girls do the same thing? They go into swoon over hot guys. Why don't we say we've got a girl supremacy thing going on, which would be more accurate today than a boy supremacy thing. So going through the claims made in the report, it's just too vague to really get your hands on it. A teacher saying that they cried and they were having a panic attack. Well, why? I mean, are you just super sensitive? You're saying you had a panic attack because a schoolboy was looking at you. There's another claim that the boy, this is apparently first year high school, if I've understood it correctly, the boy was towering over the teacher. I mean, was the teacher a midget? Was the teacher sort of 1 inch tall? Was the kid just some unusually tall freak in first year high school who was 7 foot tall? What are we dealing with here? Those sort of things aren't described. Is the teacher radically pushing gender ideology? So we've got a case where they work through, mention these things, again, vague references and abstract points without any facts. They then claim that the reason boys are behaving this way is because of Andrew Tate, that online influencer, as they call him, and they're claiming that Andrew Tate is promoting misogyny and patriarchy and disrespect for women. Again, it's abstract and the claims are vague, so it's a bit hard. But let's just say misogyny. Again, you'd need to look at their definition of misogyny, because that's a floating definition that they change and use differently in different situations, so they can just point the finger. Same as racist or fascist, is just used in that sort of abstract way. So looking at the claim that does Andrew Tate promote misogyny, well, I haven't looked at all of Andrew Tate. I mean, I've hardly looked at any, by the way, but I got onto one of his more looked at or more watched online vids. He's got a brother too, and I couldn't see what I would claim, what anyone could claim to be outright misogyny. He is claiming sort of don't sucker for the LGBTQ propaganda, don't sucker for feminist propaganda, and so on and so forth. But I wouldn't describe that as misogyny or patriarchy. So I don't agree with the point that every schoolboy is following Andrew Tate. And if you look at the views at Andrew Tate's videos, he gets quite a few. But if you look at all the schoolboys in the Western world, English-speaking schoolboys in the Western world, you look at the views that Andrew Tate's getting, then he's only picking up quite a small percentage of those. In fact, a minuscule percentage, really, in the overall scheme of things. So why would you say that Andrew Tate's, the under? So there's in the report or in the study, that lesbian activist study, what we need to do is we have to have heavy-handed, excuse me, feminist education and feminized education and brainwashing education on all boys. Girls don't need anything; they're fine. It's those evil fucking boys. We've got to get to them, and we've got to really fucking hit them hard with this. And just to keep those boys in control, we need adult males there, big strong adult males to punish and oppress those boys if they don't like what we're trying to brainwash them with. That sounds like a real recipe for success. So you can dismiss out of hand this idea that boys are being affected by Andrew Tate or online influences. So they think the step one is to shut down all online influences that boys may. And if the boys are watching it, then it must be stopped, and they must be forced to watch feminized education. They must be forced to watch documentaries made by radical lesbian activists on how evil boys are and how they're all rapists and Nazis and fascists. Oh, God damn it, there goes Hitler again running by. Somebody stop him. So really it's a claim and an argument and a study that's devoid of all reality. It exists in some fantasy world of the globalist feminists. An idea where all outcomes are exactly equal, but the moral high ground is exclusively held by the angry lesbians, with the boys as moral inferiors, or men as moral inferiors. They still want that. And to actually to make this or take the position that boys are somehow bad and evil and so on and so forth, and are requiring brainwashing and re-education. They must be denied access to. Why don't we say the same thing? So LGBTQ, we have to stop all that. No, we can't stop that. Andrew Tate we can stop, but not the LG, because we're the good. We have the moral superiority here, so we decide what you're allowed to see and hear. And they seem genuinely outraged that there is any alternative view or attitude or position or way of thinking that schoolboys may have access to. Everything has to be cut off. Only one message, which is of course the globalist thing. Is why the mainstream media, which is a globalist propaganda tool, why they're used as a mouthpiece to insist that all other news must be stopped. Or during the COVID, the people pushing the vaccines were, we are your one source of truth, and so fuck. It's really that same in architectural terms. It's that same attitude that's being expressed. So the study even goes on to say that primary school children, children sort of 11 years and under, are also disrespecting teachers, for female teachers. Now in primary school, I mean, you'd struggle to find any male teachers, I think. Certainly the primary schools that my children went to was wall-to-wall women. Off the top of my head, I can't remember a single, maybe there was, but off the top of my head, I can't remember a single male teacher. A bit different in high school, but there's still a lot of women. But even when I went to high school, the majority of teachers were women. And there are fewer men doing it now than there were then. So that would suggest that these school students, boys at school, they've got a very feminized education system. There's the gender quotas, there's the affirmative action. So you've got some seriously low quality teachers these days. The bar for women teachers is just lower than low. Girls that would have seriously flunked out of junior high school 30, 40 years ago are now high school teachers, and you wouldn't think that would be possible. But the view by the education department is that you've got, we set the parameters. You will teach this material, this is what you will say, these are the reading materials, this is what and this is how the class will be conducted, this is the course, and you just go off down the checklist. Anybody could do that. I mean, you don't need to go to a teacher's training college to be able to do that. Anyone could do it. So the requirement for teachers, not that there are, I know a teacher who teaches advanced mathematics, for example, and he takes after school classes and so on. I don't doubt that he's put a lot of work into being proficient at that. So there are cases where you just can't go off a checklist. You have to have a certain body of knowledge, and this maths teacher guy is an example of that. But excuse me, that the idea that it's not even possible for boys to be exposed to anything other than a feminized system, and in spite of being exposed to only women teachers, or nearly only women teachers, a feminized, and all the affirmative action also, in spite of that, in spite of have LGBTQ propaganda pushed at them, in spite of having these roaming lesbian education sort of hit squads running around telling boys that they're all rapist Nazis and so on, in spite of all that, they still can't successfully brainwash boys into the state of moral subservience that they appear to want to be. And that moral subservience is really the issue here. If they're not demonstrating or showing the requisite amount of moral subservience, then they're Nazis. That's it. They're misogynist, patriarchal Nazis, and something has to be done about it. But what more can be done? I mean, they've done pretty much everything. I think it's having the reverse effect. It's certainly, these calling everyone a racist and a fascist, for example, in the wider society. That's having the reverse effect to the one. You can only call people names for so long before they excuse me. And the mainstream media, because they're all controlled by the globalists, have very successfully put together one propaganda message. And that's been incessantly white people evil, fascist Nazi, and you're all Hitler and that sort of stuff. And it's had the reverse effect to the one that they're wanting. It gave them moral control for a while, but it was definitely not something that was going to work out in the longer term, which we're seeing now. And it's the same in school, but this idea of boy supremacy and male supremacy and so on, I mean, how utterly absurd. I mean, for goodness sakes. You've been with Tacitus today. You're Pushback Channel. Thank you for listening.